Here we go, y'all. We back at it again. I got a question for you. Have you started that YouTube channel yet? Have you started that YouTube channel yet? Hope the answer is yes. If you have not, I know why, and I'm going to talk to you about that today. Um, but if you're 20, if you're 30, if you're 40, if you're 50, if you're 60, if you're 65, if you're 70, you've got a lot of value to give at the particular time in your life that where you are currently because you've learned something in your life where you can really give value and give that value to someone who needs to hear it to possibly improve their life. So, you know, I only want you to subscribe to my channel if value is being brought into your life. And if you have not started that YouTube channel, I know why, and I'm going to explain it to you today. And I'm going to actually give you some remedies and things that you can do in order um, to not have um, these setbacks that are holding you back, and it's all mental. But the reason you have not started your YouTube channel right now, if you're debating on whether or not you should start it, is due to we all have a Mrs. Braswell in us. And I know you're probably thinking, what in the hell is Chris talking about? We all have a Mrs. Braswell in us. Well, when I believe I was in the eighth grade, I was taking a course, algebra, algebra two, I think it was. And I wasn't doing very good in the course. I don't think I was really applying myself that much in the course, but I was doing bad in the course. And I think I made a D, maybe an F in it. And Mrs. Braswell wanted to see my parents. At this time, this one, um, more parents then than now were really involved in the lives and the academic affairs of their children. So there was a PTA meeting, and it was a meeting with just Mrs. Braswell and myself and my father. And I remember this like it was yesterday. Mrs. Braswell told my father while I was sitting there, first of all, Chris is not applying himself. Second of all, he's very, very arrogant. And third of all, and this really crushed my spirits at the time that I was in that room with Mrs. Braswell, this is what she said, and he'll never go to college. Chris is not applying himself. Chris is very, very arrogant, and Chris will never go to college. Now, my father heard what she said, and I remember getting back into the car, and the first thing my dad did was turn on the radio, turn to one of his favorite songs, Earth, Wind, and Fire was playing, and he started whistling like he had just left the amusement park. Okay. And I'm looking over at my dad and I'm like, why aren't you upset with me? And then I said, Daddy. And he said, what? He looked over at me, and I remember this. And he turned down Earth, Wind, and Fire. He stopped whistling. And I said, do you think Mrs. Braswell is right? He said, what are you talking about? I said, do you think that I will ever go to college? And he told me two things that really improved my confidence tremendously. And I'm gonna tell you the two things that he told me. And the second thing that he told me, I'll explain what he meant by that. But he said the first thing he said is he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to college." And he said, "Well, that's the only thing that matters." And he turned back the radio and he turned up the radio again, and Earth, Wind, and Fire was playing, and he continued to whistle. And then he said, I'm sorry, before he turned down the radio, and then he said this. He said, Chris, always remember this. You have to constantly prepare and develop yourself. Okay. And always remember this. But here's the key. Here's the key of what he said. You, Chris, are better than everybody. But here's the but. Here's the but. But everybody is better than you. You, Chris, are better than everybody, but everybody is better than you. Now I know a lot of you guys are thinking, how can I believe, or how can someone believe that they're better than everyone, but everyone is better than you? Okay, I'll explain it to you. Michael Jordan, who arguably is the greatest basketball player of all time, was cut as a high school basketball player when he was trying to make the varsity team. I think he was in the ninth grade, maybe he was in the 10th grade, but he got cut. Greatest basketball player in the world got cut from the basketball team. Now, why did he get cut? Well, at the time, most likely, Michael Jordan, who is the greatest basketball player ever, was not prepared or developed enough to play on that level. Okay? He wasn't prepared or developed enough to play on that level. Okay? Now, you got to really try to get into the mind of someone who plays on that level, who is the greatest. And Michael Jordan is revered for having an insane work ethic. His work ethic was insane. They said that, he would show up at the gym, and stay all day, stay all night, just playing and playing and playing and playing and playing and playing. They said the same thing about Kobe Bryant. Playing and playing and playing and playing it. Playing and playing and playing it. And he developed his skills and understood that he has to constantly develop and constantly prepare and constantly do it. And I'm telling you guys, make videos, and you got to make video after video after video after video after video after video. And he's constantly preparing. But think about this. Did Michael Jordan think that he was the best basketball player of all time? I think, yeah. But he knew that if other NBA players and other players made it to the NBA, now here's the key kicker. He knew that if other players, people came into the NBA, they would have to have performed at a world-class level to make it to the NBA, which made them the best as well. I hope y'all get that. Other players who made it to the NBA as Michael Jordan did, they made it to the NBA because they were amongst the best of the best. So they were the best. They were the best basketball players because they were paid professionals. That's the difference between a professional and an amateur. Pros get paid, amateurs don't. Okay? So by Michael Jordan realizing that the guys that I'm playing against are the best, how can I be better than the best? He's got to constantly prepare and develop himself. He's got to constantly develop his skills. He's got to stay in the gym longer than anybody. He's got to leave the gym when everybody is. He's got to leave the gym when everybody is already gone, but he's staying a lot longer. You got to have that mindset that when you get out of bed in the morning, okay, whatever you're doing, if you're trying to be world class, you got to understand that you've got a lot of competition, okay, and somebody is always coming to kick your ass. You got to understand that, okay? Every morning you step out of bed, you got to understand that if you're going to be world class and you're going to be the best because you are the best, that you got to constantly prepare, you got to constantly develop, because somebody is constantly getting out of bed just like you with the mindset of constantly preparing and developing, because like you, they're the best and you're the best. Like you, they're the best and you're the best. And you have to really understand that. Here's another illustration for you. Every day, a cheetah gets up. And that cheetah instinctively knows that he must run faster than the fastest gazelle or it won't eat. Now, does the cheetah know that he's faster than the gazelle? I don't know. But he instinctively knows that if he's going to eat, he must run in order to catch a gazelle, and he must be fast as hell. Likewise, a gazelle wakes up every morning, and that gazelle knows instinctively that it must run its ass off, because if it doesn't run its ass off, a cheetah may catch up to it and it will be the cheetah's meal. Okay? So you have to know that you are the best. Okay? You were born to be the best. When you were made, you were the best and you are the best. But someone else was made that is the best, and they have to understand that they have to constantly prepare, they have to constantly develop. I'm encouraging you guys to constantly do. I'm I'm encouraging you guys to do a YouTube video and bring value. You have to constantly give video after video after video after video after video after video. And the reason a lot of us and you have not started is because there's a Mrs. Braswell in you that's holding you back. And Mrs. Braswell could be holding you back from losing 50 pounds, and you know you need to lose weight, but something in your childhood, or you've had an experience where it's very difficult for you to get to a point mentally where you know this is what I need to do consistently in order to improve my health. You got a Mrs. Braswell in you that's limiting you, okay, from becoming the person physically that you need to be as far as your health is concerned. I give you an illustration. You know, my wife looks at this. I don't even know the name of this program, but I think it's 600 pounds. Everybody on there is at least 600 pounds or more, and they literally go to this doctor, and they're trying to get weight loss surgery, okay, in order to perform, just better in their lives and to have better health, because they're at a point in their lives at 600 pounds where they've got to lose weight, or a lot of times they may die. So I was looking at one episode with my wife. We're laying in bed, and it goes to what I'm talking about. This Mrs. Braswell, this holding you back, and there was a woman who was, I think she was close to 700 pounds, and she would not stick to the plan. This doctor has a regimen that you can get on where if you eat a certain amount of calories per day and exclude the junk from your diet, you will lose a certain amount of weight, because he just knows if you eat a certain amount of calories and starve your body of, not starve your body, but not eat the calories, a certain amount of calories, you're going to lose weight. So he had her go to a psychologist because, he couldn't understand why she would not stick to the plan. And when she went to this psychologist, the psychologist did some digging and found what her Mrs. Braswell was. And her Mrs. Braswell was this, and this was what was holding her back from losing the weight and doing what she needed to be. They found out through a psychologist that she would binge eat around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She would just eat any and everything. And they found out around the time that she would binge eat, she would always binge eat around the time that she was raped. And she was raped at around 2:30 in the every morning when she was growing up. Her mother's boyfriend would come into her room and rape her from the time she said she was about 7 years old, I think, until she was about 15 years old. And she was binge eating, trying to get rid of that demon. And I'm referring to this demon as Mrs. Braswell. Now, Mrs. Braswell is not a demon at all, but this is what was holding her back from being, one of the things that was holding her back from being successful in losing the weight that she needed to lose. So once the doctor found out what was holding her back. Then, she got some coaching and she went through some processes. Make a long story short, they found out what her Mrs. Braswell was, and she lost the weight. Now, let me tell you what happens to you if you don't deal with Mrs. Braswell's, because I dealt with the Mrs. Braswell, because I, in fact, did go to college and I, in fact, did graduate. But this is what happened, and this is why this story is so important. I had a father and a daddy that filtered a lot of Mrs. Braswell's in my life. And I understood that, like my daddy said, I am the best. And I stood and I understand that the only reason why I don't have the things in my life right now, and I've got a lot of goals, and like you guys, is because I have not dealt internally with other Mrs. Braswells. You got to understand that. I'm hoping this is another phrase that is powerful, that will help you. And I'm gonna give you a powerful story. But this is another phrase that'll help you. And I hope you internalize this. The enemy, the E N E M Y, the enemy is the inner me. The enemy is the inner me. And you have to deal with that inner person of you and all of these Mrs. Braswells that is that are holding you back from becoming your best self. Okay. But let's fast forward to after I graduated from college. I lost my daddy about 5 years ago. And um, I mean, his home going celebration was just incredible because I was able to speak and I was able to send my daddy off. I want y'all to hear this because this is powerful, man. This will help change your life. And I feel my dad with me right now. I'm giving this. I want you to hear this. This will change somebody's life that's listening to this. Just give me a minute. And I want everybody to hear this because this will change your life. If you get this, you got to understand at all times, you got to stop chasing money because you got to understand you're constantly attracting things to you. Stop chasing money. Money is going to come to you. Your life, whatever you want in your life is coming. But you got to stop chasing and you got to understand that you are attracting things a lot of times to you and you don't realize what's happening. But anyway, at my dad's homegoing celebration, um, I stood up and I must have spoken. I thought I spoke for about, we were supposed to speak for 10 or 15 minutes, but um, you know, I literally felt my father in me. And real quick, the church that he had his homegoing celebration, my father had Alzheimer's. And um, I remember I remember going to church on Easter Sunday. This was the church that his great grandfather built, called Lindsay Street Baptist Church. I remember going to church and he didn't know I was coming. Now, remind you, my dad has Alzheimer's. Okay. So he was sitting on the front row of the church. And I remember Reverend Motley was preaching. That's the reverend of the church. And I walked in and it was in the middle of the services. And when I walked down, I remember tapping him on his shoulder. And he turned around and he said, "Hey, Chris." And he gave me the biggest hug. He was just so excited to hear me. He had Alzheimer's. But um, this is why this is so powerful. But back, I was just thinking about that happening. But anyway, I spoke at his funeral at his homegoing celebration. It was supposed to be about 10 or 15 minutes, and gave a long speech. I mean, it was incredible. I promise you, because I mean, this is my daddy. I'm sending him home. And um, after it was over, um, I got in the limousine, and the driver of the limousine um, said, "Young man, that was an incredible speech that you gave. That was powerful." He said, "You went to Frederick Douglass High School?" I said, "Yeah, before I was taken out, my parents put me in a private school the last 2 years of my life." He said, "Well, I want you to know that Mrs. Braswell's sister was sitting on the second row. Mrs. Braswell died a year and a half ago. Mrs. Braswell's sister was sitting on the second row. Mrs. Braswell died 2 years ago. After I got my diploma from my undergrad institution of Dillon University, my daddy was waiting to greet me. And he took a picture this close to my face. And I hated that picture because it was that close to my face. And I remember having a conversation with my dad probably a day or two after I graduated. And I told him, I said, "You remember what Miss Braswell said?" And he said, "Do you remember what I said?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I said, what do you think? The only thing that matters is what you think. Whoever you are watching this, it doesn't matter. You got to stop giving a shit, man, about what other people think about you. That's why you are not where you want to be financially. That's why you can't lose the weight. That's why you haven't gotten on YouTube and done a video. A lot of y'all are married to Miss Braswell. I'm talking to men now. A lot of y'all are married to Miss Braswell. Y'all need to pull your wife aside if your wife is not encouraging you, because I'm blessed to have one that always encourages me. Okay, like my daddy did. I'm blessed to have a wife like that. But you're probably married to someone who they're saying things to you that's keeping you back. And this is what you need to do. You don't need to get a divorce. You don't need to leave your wife, because a lot of people are just outwardly saying things to you because they have not dealt with their internal Mrs. Braswells. This is what you need to tell your wife. You need to say, "Look, baby, I know I have not been the man that you think I should be, but I have big goals and I have big dreams and aspirations." I don't know what your dreams and your aspirations are. Who I don't, who's ever looking at this, but this is what you need to tell her. If you can't say encouraging things to me constantly that help to serve, promote, and build me up, don't say anything to me at all. Now, you got to be willing to reciprocate that now. You can't expect for a person to celebrate you and you're just tolerating them. As they say, go where you're celebrated, never where you're tolerated. Go where you're celebrated, never where you're tolerated. And you got to have that conversation with your significant other, because if you don't, I can only imagine what would have happened if I was brought up in a single family household with a single mother and Mrs. Braswell told me that in front of my mother, And although my mother did encourage me when I was growing up, it was nothing like a daddy doing it. It's nothing like a man encouraging another man that you are the best. You are the best, but everyone else is the best. And you got to constantly prepare and develop yourself. Stop letting people tell you, I'm an entrepreneur. I used to hear this bullshit, this crap of people saying that people that have a job that is journey of the broke. I used to hear this crap that people that have a job means just over broke. And you got a lot of people who have value that they're giving every single day. There's value in all work. There's honor in all work. Now, do you need to have more than one stream of income? Yeah. If you have a job and you only have a job and you're not working on another stream of income, is that an issue and is that a problem? Yeah. Should you have more than one stream of income? Yeah. Should you have more than two streams of income? Yeah. Should you have more than three forms of income? Yeah. That's why you should start a YouTube channel right now and give value to people, but you gotta know who you are. And if you know who you are, you start the channel. You would have already started the channel if you knew who you were. Let me say this as well. One day, we all are going to die. You know the thing that I wish that I would have done that I did not do? I don't have any videos with my father on it. I don't have any videos of my father giving cookouts. I don't have any videos of just my father imparting and giving me wisdom. I have no videos like that. If I did, I would be constantly playing two things because I don't look at TV. Or I try not to look at, CNN, which gives no value, which stands for constant negative news. I don't look at Fox News, which is an acronym for full of xenophobic news. I look at things like YouTube because I can search for things that give value and to things that feed me mentally and spiritually so that Chris can be his best self. That's why you need to do a YouTube channel so that you can feed me. Okay, because you have something to give whoever you are out there who have not started a YouTube channel. And you can start a YouTube channel and in time after you're doing video after video after video after video after video, you may become monetized and start making another stream of income. That's why it's so important that you do stop giving a shit what other people think. Prepare and develop yourself so that you become the best you because you deserve it. I got one more powerful story for you. And then I'm going to end because I know I've been talking a lot. Y'all don't want to hear me just go on and on and on and on and on. But one more powerful story. And we all know who Oprah Winfrey is. And somebody needs to hear this story. But Oprah Winfrey, at some point in her life, she had a Miss Braswell in her too. Okay? Poor girl growing up in Mississippi. Okay? Pregnant at the age of 15. One of the richest people in the world. I mean, she's made the Forbes 400 list for many, many years. But anyways, it's a powerful story. Okay? That'll help you get your Miss Braswell out of you. But you got to constantly, you will never get rid of Miss Braswell. I probably think about Miss Braswell, and I'm graduated college in 1997. I probably think about Miss Braswell once every 3 months. You never get rid of it. Now, how do you get rid of it? You got to feed your mind, starve your doubt. Feed your mind, starve your doubt. Feed your mind, starve your doubt. How do you get rid of it? You got to get around positive people that you want to see win first, and those people want to see you win. Okay? How do you do it? You got to get around positive people where those people want to see you win, and you want to see those people win. You want to get around people that you celebrate and those people celebrate you. Stop hanging around people that tolerate you and don't celebrate you. Stop hanging around people that tolerate you and don't celebrate you. Okay? It's lonely at the top and it's lonely going to the top. But it's worth it. Entrepreneurship is worth it. Whatever your name is, you're worth it. I'm starting to think about my dad again, but let me get to the story. Oprah Winfrey, when she was a little girl, she said that she was staying with her grandmother. And up until that point in her life, the majority of the women in Oprah Winfrey's life, because she was brought up in segregation, the majority of the women in her life were maids that worked for white people. You know, they work for white people. They taught their little white children manners. They probably bathed their children and helped raise their children. These were her grandmothers. A lot of black people had grandmothers during, great grandmothers that probably did that. But anyway, she said her grandmother, she remembers it, and she said she was about 9 years old. Her grandmother was taking some clothes off of a clothesline. And Oprah said she was sitting up in the window. She would always watch it while she was, washing clothes and taking clothes off the clothesline. And her grandmother said, "Hey, little girl, you need to be looking at me there. So one day you can find you some good white folks to work for. Look at me now." And Oprah with a tear in her eye. Man, I'm thinking about my dad a lot, man. But Oprah with a tear in her eye said, "If only my grandmother could see me now. She would have been so proud of me that I did find me some good white folks. But all of them work for me now. I found me some good white folks. But all of them work for me now." Now, how did Oprah get to that point? She dealt with the Mrs. Braswells in her life. I don't know how she did it. And I know she said she never went to therapy, and she said that her show, the Oprah Winfrey Show, was her therapy. But in order to get to the level that you want to get to, you have to deal with the Mrs. Braswells in your life and filter it. Get around positive people. Read great books. Warren Buffett says he reads for 8 hours a day. This is the world's, what at one time he was the richest man, one of the richest men. He reads for 8 hours a day. Why aren't you reading for 30 minutes a day? Why aren't you reading for 15 minutes a day if one of the world's richest men reads for 8 hours a day? That helps to feed the mind, starve the doubt. Feed the mind, starve the doubt. You're helping to rid yourself. Well, actually, you're not ridding yourself, but it's helping you to filter those Mrs. Braswells. And you're going to be doing that your entire life. But as long as you keep filtering those Mrs. Braswells, your life is going to get better and better and better and better and better and better. So with that, y'all, I know I've taken y'all back and forth, and it's been an emotional time, and hopefully I brought you some value. But get those Mrs. Braswells out of your life. And with that said, I look forward to seeing y'all again. I'm going to come back with another banger, I promise you. Bring you some more value. If this video has brought value to you, and only if this video has brought value to you, hit the subscribe button. Come on this journey with me. I want to come on a journey with you as well. But with that said, y'all be good. Bye.